Hello, welcome to a mini lecture on plant anatomy. This is part of a three-part mini lecture series on plant form and function. Over the course of this chapter, there are three different topics that are covered that are about plant structure and the foundation for plant function. Today, the focus will be on roots, shoots, and leaves, or in other words, the anatomy of a plant. There are a couple of themes to remember when we talk about plant form and function. Is that number one, form dictates function. And we're going to see several examples of this when we look at the basic body plan of a plant. We'll see form and function associated with location of primary growth and form and function associated with location of secondary growth. There's also variation in body size and shape, which allows different species of plants to harvest the things that are important to them, water, light, and other resources. And they do this in many different unique ways. And lastly, that you'll see three different primary tissue systems. And these systems are specialized for protection, for food production and storage, and last but not least, for transport. So ask yourself, what are some of the requirements that plants have for growth? And how do they get these requirements? Well, what do plants need? Well, they need large amounts of light and CO2 and a small amount of water as an electron source for photosynthesis. And you learned about that in cell biology in BIOL&213. They need lots of water to fill their cells and to maintain volume and pressure. And last but not least, they need nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and other trace nutrients, which mostly exist in ions in dissolved water. And they need this to synthesize macromolecules. So what structures are associated with acquiring these requirements for growth? Well, we go back to these three main systems. The root system, which is below ground and anchors the plant and is responsible for taking in water and nutrients. The shoot system, which basically has the job above ground of harvesting light and gas exchange, so CO2. And it also is responsible for producing sugar. And last but not least, we have the vascular tissue, and that's responsible for facilitating transport between the root and the shoot. So do plants have organs and tissues? What do you think? Well, we use that term mostly when we talk about plants, but if we think about a collection of different tissues, we can say that they have organs, and those are the roots, the stems, and the leaves. And we can break up tissues associated with the different types of collections of cells that have specific jobs. And so we have ground tissue, we have vascular tissue, and we have dermal tissue. And then in of that, we have a lower hierarchy of different types of cells. So these are cells that make up these different tissues. And in ground tissue, we have parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. And in vascular tissue, we have the tracheids, the vessel elements, the sieve tubes, and the companion cells. And then in the dermal tissue, remember, this is probably what term you've heard more often, or these terms, which are epidermal cells, which you know from your own skin, but also stomata, remember that's associated with gas exchange, and trichomes, which we'll talk about later. So that's a quick summary of the plant structure. Thanks so much for watching.